Simple Minds are Scotland's premier stadium rockers.
Shine on, shine a light on me. In all of my life, so that much more I see.
Simple Minds are the gung-ho Glaswegians who've never given up.
Don't you forget about me. Don't.
They may be called Simple Minds, but their music is far from simple.
Jim Kerr was born on the 9th of July 1959 in Glasgow, Scotland.
There wasn't much money in the Kerr household when they were growing up. Jim Kerr's father, also called Jim, he was a labourer, and his mother, Irene, worked in a bakery.
A fairly normal upbringing, and he was very, very shy, which might seem unusual for a lead singer. But I think that was a way of getting over his shyness. He had quite a bad stammer when he was a child.
Charlie Burchill also came from Glasgow, born on the 27th of November 1959.
Jim Kerr and Charlie Burchill had known each other from the age of just 8 years old, and together they went to Holyrood Roman Catholic Secondary School. In 1977, Jim Kerr and Charlie Burchill were already playing with Brian McGee on drums and Tony Donnell. They were introduced to guitarist John Malarkey by Glasgow scene maker Alan Ken Duff, and they became Johnny and the Self-Abusers.
Johnny and the Self-Abusers were a cartoon punk band, really. And Charlie and Jim joined because they thought that they could change the group a bit, but they soon got sick of a lot of the toilet humour, as you might imagine, was going around on a band called Johnny and the Self-Abusers.
They released a single called Saints and Sinners, which didn't really do anything.
In classic punk style, the day the single was released, the band broke up.
Jim Kerr, Charlie Burchill and Brian McGee split off, and they formed Simple Minds, which was named after a lyric in Jean Genie by David Bowie. Duncan Barwell came on second guitar, which meant that Charlie Burchill could play violin and guitar, and Mick McNeil came on keyboards. This really turned Jim Kerr into the frontman, because before then Jim Kerr was playing keyboards as well. Now he was the singer.
Bruce Findlay was an Edinburgh businessman, and he had been a concert promoter. But at the time he met Simple Minds, he ran a chain of record shops, which was called Bruce's, and he also had a small label called Zoom, which was linked to Arista Records. He took the band on, both to manage them and to get them to sign to Zoom Records, which meant that they would also be linked with Arista.
Tony Donald quit, Duncan Barwell was sacked, and Derek Forbes came in to replace Tony Donald. And so now you have the classic Simple Minds quintet.
Kerr, Burchill, McNeil, Forbes and McGee. And this is the group that records the first album, Life in a Day, the songs written by Kerr and Burchill.
Life in a Day reached number 30 in the UK charts.
It was hailed as a kind of post-punk classic. This is the time of Joy Division and Public Image Limited, and Simple Minds fit into that category.
There were 2 singles off it too. Life in a Day, the title track. This went to 62, and it was followed by Chelsea Girl, which, of course, was about the Andy Warhol scene in New York. Should have been a massive hit too. It was incredibly catchy. It was very different to what was going on, and somehow it just didn't happen. It was almost as if Arista weren't really behind Simple Minds properly.
Reel to Reel Cacophony was quite a departure from the debut album. It was a lot darker, less pop sounding, there's a lot of experimentation.
There was a lot of African sounds on the track Veldt. There was some Kraftwerkisms on Reel to Reel, the near title track. And there was also Factory, which was the best song of the early Simple Minds period.
Changing was the main single from the album, and that was an extraordinary work, actually. It was as if Joy Division had done a disco song, and it showed that both Kerr and Burchill were really, really stretching the limits of what rock might do.
Simple Minds continued to really experiment with their sound with their next album, Empires and Dance. Really minimalist structure, lots of more sequencing used and effects used on the guitars.
Kerr was moving away from traditional narrative lyrics and actually creating impressions. The one thing about Kerr has always been that he's been able to absorb sights, sounds, politics, personalities, and filter them through the doors of his own imagination to create interesting lyrics.
Again, it was a long way from the quite grandiose pop rock that they'd come to be known as. This was still rather kind of artistic and weird and jagged.
Empires and Dance only went to number 41 in the UK chart, partly due to Arista not sending enough copies out to record stores to meet demand.
In 1981, Simple Minds switched from Arista to Virgin Records, and they released 2 albums in one. Sons and Fascination and Sister Feelings Call. Initially, the second album was supposed to be included as kind of a bonus, but actually they just got released together.
And they got it produced by Steve Hillage, and he gave them a new depth of experimentation. It reached number 11 in the charts, the whole package. So there was a sense that finally a record company was behind them and they were still making great records and things appeared to be about to take off.
Love Song was Simple Minds' first hit. It got to number 47 in the UK charts.
It wasn't a classic love song by any means, but it was an interesting move through his dark imagination.
Brian McGee quit Simple Minds citing exhaustion, and he was replaced for a short time by Kenny Hislop. And what he did was bring to the band his love of funk and dance and hip-hop, which actually had quite an influence, I think, on Simple Minds, and they took that forward with them, even though he wasn't with the band for very long. Young session musician Mel Gaynor joined the band just before they recorded and released the album New Gold Dream, and that was their biggest success so far. It went to number 3 in the UK charts.
Shine on, shine your light on me, and all of my life, so that much more I see.
It was full of hits. It was very, very focused. It was the sound of a band who were beginning to define 1980s music.
In the light of his love, in the light of reflection, one another's words, sometimes also it seems. Eyes to the sky, and a silver gift friendship.
Glittering Prize got to number 16 in the UK charts. Promised You a Miracle got to number 13 in the UK charts.
Promised you a miracle. Belief is a beauty thing. Promises, promises. I couldn't dare break wondering.
And this is where you can hear Simple Minds switching over. So you've still got this kind of post-punk sound, but they're also edging towards the big anthemic stadium rock sound for which they would be so well known.
The 1984 album Sparkle in the Rain was Simple Minds' first #1 album, and in fact it went into the top 20 in numerous countries around the world.
Steve Lillywhite produced this. He'd been producing a lot of U2's work, and of course the disparaging thing at the time was that Simple Minds were nicknamed U3, something that they really hated then and they still don't like now.
This was an extraordinary album and included the amazing single Waterfront.
Jim met Chrissie Hynde of The Pretenders on the supporting tour, and they married in 1984.
They had a daughter called Yasmin. But a few days or weeks after they were married, Jim Kerr went off on a Simple Minds world tour which lasted for 2 years. And I don't think the marriage ever really recovered its impetus after that. But they stayed married until 1990.
By 1985, Simple Minds were gaining more and more popularity around the world.
The big US breakthrough was with the single Don't You Forget About Me, and it's all down to the John Hughes movie, The Breakfast Club.
Won't you come see about me? I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, baby.
Don't You Forget About Me is the song that plays at the end of The Breakfast Club, and it just became redolent of the 1980s.
It went to #1, it went top 10 in the UK tour, but suddenly they were big in America.
Despite their great success at this time, Simple Minds actually were starting to unravel as a band. They'd been touring together for so long, and those relationships were getting more and more fractured. And in fact, Derek Forbes was the first casualty of this. He'd been missing rehearsals, he hadn't been perhaps as committed as other members, and he was the first to go.
Forbes was replaced by John Giblin, who owned the band's rehearsal space.
In 1985, they released the album Once Upon a Time.
It went to #1 in the UK, but more importantly, it went to #10 in the US. So finally, they really have broken through there.
They had Jimmy Iovine producing it, and he gave it a distinctly American feel. They employed a co-lead vocalist, Robin Clark, and significantly, she'd sung on David Bowie's Young Americans, and she duetted with Jim Kerr on a lot of these songs, and that gave them a whole new dimension.
What you gonna do when the flames go up? Who's gonna come and turn the tide? What's it gonna take to make a dream survive? Who's got the time to calm a storm inside? Who's gonna save you? Alive and kicking.
There were several hit singles from the album: Alive and Kicking, Sanctify Yourself, and All the Things She Said. They all made the top 10 in the British charts, and Alive and Kicking went to #3 in the American charts.
In the late 1980s, Simple Minds were asked to take part in Mandela Day. And in fact, everyone who was asked to take part was asked to produce a song for it. But Simple Minds were the only band that did. And that song, Mandela Day, featured on the Ballad of the Streets EP, along with the track Belfast Child. And it was actually a big success for them.
It went straight to #1 in the British charts. It was an enormous hit for them, and it showed that Kerr could not only write great lyrics, but also was developing a political conscience.
Simple Minds released their 8th studio album, Street Fighting Years, in 1989.
Street Fighting Years was yet another change of direction. It moved away from the American soul and gospel of Once Upon a Time into an arena which was much more political, much more atmospheric, and in fact started using elements of folk.
References the poll tax, it references nuclear submarines off the coast of Scotland. It talks about the Suez.
Founding manager, been there right from the beginning.
They went to Amsterdam to record their next album, Real Life.
The album Real Life was released in 1991, and by this point the band is just Kerr, Burchill and Gaynor, who will feature on the cover. And all the songs are written by Kerr and Burchill, and it went to #2 in the album charts.
It had its moments. Certainly Let There Be Love was one of them, which was a top 10 single in the UK.
Simple Minds toured the album before Mel Gaynor left, and the band went on hiatus for the next 2 years.
Good News from the Next World was really their last big hit. That went to number 2 in the UK charts, and it had the singles She's a River and Hypnotised, both of which were top 20 hits in the UK.
I still remember the look in your eyes, the way that you filled me inside. All I got now on my defense is my innocence. I've been hypnotized.
This was produced by Keith Forsey, who'd done Don't You Forget About Me, and clearly it was an attempt to get the American market back. But times have moved on. It wouldn't happen.
1998, Neapolis saw the return to Simple Minds of Derek Forbes on bass and Mel Gaynor on drums.
Neapolis was released in the UK. It sold poorly, it didn't get great reviews. And the record label, Chrysalis, refused to release it in the US, saying that there just wasn't enough interest.
The band's next album, Our Secrets Are the Same, was recorded in 1999, but was left unreleased as Chrysalis Records attempted to merge with EMI. The record was finally leaked on the internet, and Simple Minds went on hiatus again, disenchanted with the whole business.
Jim Kerr went to Sicily, to Taormina, and bought a hotel.
He opened what was a very successful boutique hotel, and he'd also do quite a lot of his subsequent recording in Sicily too.
Kerr and Burchill began working on new material, resulting in 2001's Covers album, Neon Lights, and 2002's Cry.
Although neither album did particularly well commercially, it gave them the confidence to go on a floating world tour.
The Floating World Tour was the first tour in 7 years, and it was across America, and it was successful. And it now saw Simple Minds as an alternative rock band, almost alternative rock veterans, in the vein of The Cure.
2005's Black and White got them back into the British top 40, and it harked back to the sound of Empires and Dance all those years ago.
God give me traveling shoes, God gave me the wanderer's eye. God gave me a few gold coins to help me to the other side.
This was really the beginning of Simple Minds' rehabilitation. They'd had such a difficult period, a difficult decade really, but now they were elder statesmen. They were being revered again, and Black and White was the start of that.
The follow-up to that album was Graffiti Soul, and that was actually their first top 10 album in the UK in 14 years.
You're sending me rockets, full circle again. Still sending me rockets.
It was really solid. There was a lot of electro on it. You hear Rockets and you think, yeah, this could have gone on several Simple Minds albums. They were beginning to realise what they're really good at and flourishing.
In 2016, Simple Minds won an Ivor Novello Award for Outstanding Song Collection, and they also released the album Big Music.
It took Simple Minds back into the British top 20.
When we turn on our ways back to one of space, you'll find there's still something between you and me.
In their later years, they were beginning to be totally at ease with themselves. They knew what they were good at, and they were being good at it.
In 2018, Simple Minds released the album Walk Between Worlds. It got such great reviews. It was really positively received, and in fact went to number 4, their highest charting album in 23 years.
The
legacy of Simple Minds is one of extraordinary experimentation. The first 3 or 4 albums show a group really, really looking to stretch the boundaries of what pop and rock might be.
Simple Minds are a band who've adapted. They're real troopers. They've gone through many stages and they've been good at almost everything that they've tried.
Sanctify yourself.